For viewers across Africa and the rest of the world, this is NC Continental Prime. I am Benga Aboroa. We begin in West Africa, where the United States has announced that it has taken steps to impose visa bans on persons who disrupted the recent general elections in Nigeria. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken, in a statement, says the United States is committed to supporting and advancing democracy in Nigeria and around the world. The visa ban is specific to certain individuals and is not directed at the Nigerian people or the government of Nigeria as a whole. According to the statement, the individuals on the U.S. Immigration and Nationality Act will be subjected to restrictions on visas to the U.S. on the policy covering those believed to be responsible for or complicit in undermining democracy. Now, joining us live on NC Continental Prime tonight is Segun Sokoto, a political analyst, joins us from Lagos, Nigeria, to unpack this latest development. Good evening to you, Segun, and thanks for joining us on NC Continental Prime.
Good evening, Benga. Good evening, Nigerians. Glad to be here.
Now, Segun, the United States has put in actions to its words by announcing that it is imposing visa restrictions on those who undermine democracy by disrupting the recent general elections in the country. What do you make of such a ban?
Well, I think this is not the first time that the United States government and some other Western powers will advance this course of action. We've seen it happen in recent history, and it's really not news anymore. And I think for me, personally, I have reservations with regards to this statement by the United States for various reasons. The first one being that I'm not sure that I've actually seen the effectiveness of this measure and others like it in the past, and how that has reflected or affected our democracy. So one might argue that, oh, it's a good idea that Western powers like the United States are weighing in on the situation and trying to help us deepen our democracy by holding people accountable and ensuring that there are consequences for bad behavior, especially since those consequences appear not to, we appear not to be able to sanction, such people on our shores. So one would be tempted to say, oh, this is a good thing. But we've seen time and again that this has not had the desired effect. This has not in any way dissuaded the people that do these things. Election cycle in, after election cycle out, we continue to see our political actors behave very badly, and nobody holds them to account. I have not yet to see or hear of one single politician who we know, Nigerians know, have been involved in electoral malpractices. I've not seen any one of them getting denied access to any one of these countries in the recent past. Maybe somebody can educate me. So this sounds to me like political correctness, niceties in terms of international diplomacy, saying the right things, to sound the right way, rather than something that will bring the kind of results that we need to see to help our democracy get better. And then there is also the question of, the moral question. He who comes to equity needs to come with clean hands. And you wonder, whether this is not a bit hypocritical from the United States, given the things that we have seen happen on their shores and given the role that we have seen them play across the world with regards to undermining democracy. We've seen the role that they played in countries like Libya. We've seen the role that they played in countries like Iraq, where the United States government misled the entire world, lied about weapons of mass destruction, went into that country, took a government down, destroyed the stability in that country, and then that same country says that they want to help us develop democracy. I wonder, whose interest they're serving. So it's tempting to be positive and to applaud what the United States government is saying they will do, but we've not seen these things be effective in the past. And to be honest, I wonder whether they do have the moral stand, to do this.
Not effective and doesn't serve hard enough as a deterrent. That's what you said, Segun. Now, an interesting question again would be, how did the U.S. Department of states go about identifying those who undermine the elections? What methodology was used to come up with this list? Would it be just one or two prominent names, or those who made the news, so to speak? And why have they refused to name and shame these individuals?
Exactly. So, first of all, on the part of the United States, the statement released by Secretary Anthony Blinken appears to suggest that they have identified some people, even though there is no direct claim in that regard in that statement. So I wonder whether that is the case. And I doubt it, because at this point in time, aside from a few people that were brazen about it, that went public, for example, it's not news that somebody like MC Oluomo, was very public in his intimidation tactics, and perhaps some of the violence that we saw in Lagos can be directly attributed to him. But besides characters like that in isolated cases across the country, how exactly does the United States intend to identify people who undermine democracy by promoting violence, by manipulating the vote result, like they said, when the courts are still in process? What process precisely would they use, and what measures, what yardstick would they use to identify these guys? Would they, for example, put the president-elect, on that list, given that a lot of Nigerians believe that the president-elect was rigged into office? Will they put Mahmoud Yakubu on that list? So there are too many questions to ask the United States. And of course, we know that back home here in Nigeria, the jury is still out with regards to who exactly was responsible for what. Who was responsible, for example, for the 100% systemic failure of INEC to upload results from the polling units, on election day for the presidential elections, when in that same election, at that same moment, House of Representatives and Senate elections took place and were uploaded. So clearly there was sabotage by somebody. Who was responsible for that? The jury is still out. We don't know. So the courts are in process. I think that Nigerians and Africa will need to look inwards and solve our problems our way, including, if necessary, by protesting when our politicians try to hijack and capture the state, rather than this pontification from Western powers that have not shown very clearly that they mean well for us. If the United States, for example, wants to help us stop our politicians from continuing to undermine democracy, can they, for example, start by freezing the accounts of these people? All of these people have accounts in the United States, in the United Kingdom, in Switzerland. What have they done to freeze those accounts and return those monies to the Nigerian people, having gone through whatever process they need to go through there? We don't see enough of these types of things, and it's a bit hollow for me when they release this type of statement.
And going after the finances, it's a tougher deterrent because they can choose to. The United States is just one of so many countries they could choose to travel to. So visa restriction, like you said, is just a slap in the wrist. Thank you very much, Segun Sopiton, for being a part of the news. We do appreciate your contribution and your insights.
Have a great evening.